It is early, quarterfinals day. Right outside is Gillette Stadium. And Brett and I were thinking, okay, yeah, I'm not playing, but I'm still staying in shape, just in case I come back.
And you sure you're not playing?
Well, let's get into it. So one of my favorite videos I've done with Brett all year is You Can't Miss a Day.
From this day forward, through your senior year of high school, you have to shoot 100 shots a day.
And the lesson behind coaches talk to us at that camp when I was a 6th grader was, all you need to do is take 100 shots a day. And I've learned that takes about 20 minutes. So many of you out there that are evolving to being great athletes and lacrosse players, how do you then fit in the 100 shots a day, then a workout, then conditioning? So today is gonna be the workout portion, and we're gonna do it in 20 minutes. A little bit of heart rate work, getting that thing up and going, and then weight training. Why weight training? It's the most valuable thing you can do. So number 1, it helps you build strength. Number 2, it gives you a metabolic boost. Number 3, it helps with your bone density. And the last one is just your mentals. It helps with longevity in life. It helps with your mental fulfillment and happiness. When you're bigger, you're stronger, you can act more, you can run faster, and you can defend and pursue. So, with that said, a number of you guys joined our community tab earlier this week and asked some questions that I'll have my physical therapist come in and answer right after this workout. How's that sound?
Sounds great. What a good way to start off the day.
All right, so here's how I like to start. This is an ode to Jay Dyer, my first strength and conditioning coach. To get your heart rate going without some weights, how do you build up some pace? So it's like a HIIT workout. I start with jumping jacks into burpees, and then I finish with mountain climbers. Jumping jacks, burpees, climbers. All right, jumping jacks. Plank, squat, jump, plank.
What's your heart rate at, you think?
75.
Oh, dude.
So a good physical therapist will advise around your resting heart rate, a heart rate that is a high level to achieve for you as an athlete. And then more importantly, a sign of someone who's fit is their ability to reach peak heart rate and recover to resting heart rate in a faster amount of time than anyone else. And a lot of times when we're training, we think that it's about how far and how fast we can go every time is a measure of our conditioning, but a measure of your conditioning is actually how quickly you can recover. Really important to think about. So those heart rate monitors during workouts, you're breathing, can you get your heart rate down fast? And in lacrosse terms, that may make sense to some of you guys as you do a shift out of the midfield, play some defense, sub out. I'm ready to go. We're about 5 minutes in, so we have 15 minutes left. Here's what I'm gonna advise doing on a full body. And sometimes you can break it down by muscle group because we're gonna try to cover everything. We're gonna go pull-ups to squats. That's a circuit. Then we're gonna do our next major circuit, which is a bench press, we have dumbbells, to a row, to a tricep pull down. In each of these movements, we're doing equal and opposite forces. Pulling, squatting, pushing, pulling, pushing through. And then we'll finish with core. For round 2 or 3, you can add weights on the squat. Feet outside of shoulder width. You want to drop back into your squat, into your center of your feet, not necessarily your heels. And then to keep my back straight, I practice shoulders back and down. That locks me. Finish up and squeeze your glutes at the top. Just right here. One more round.
What's great about this workout is you can just do it in a hotel gym. You don't need any fancy equipment.
It's my second home, hotels. We'll figure out how to handle lighter dumbbells. This time, we call these prayer squats. Hold it this way, puts a little more onus on your form. And if you struggle with posture in leaning, bring the weight up here. Let's move to our other circuit and finish with core. Here's the thing. For those of you that have the ability to work out for an hour a day in the weight room, an hour a day conditioning, another 2 hours in lacrosse, go for it. What I try to offer here is practicality, and the most important thing, which is you do something every day. That's how you stack growth. You're gonna grab some dumbbells, heaviest ones in the room, not saying much. Something that you know you can do 3 sets of pushes in. So we're gonna go right to equal and opposite forces. What I try to do, if the weight is lighter, take my legs out of the equation. So my pressing is fully this muscle group in my core. You can do inverted grip if you want. This focuses more on triceps. So I try to come out here. I don't want to go lower than chest. Explode through, really activate those muscles. One knee down, opposite. One with my right. Try to kick my butt out, keep my back straight. And we're gonna row. Triceps. Here's the thing about triceps. This is less about how much weight you can press down, rather how good your form is. So what I like to do is hover close to the rope, so it eliminates the lean. Close here. Now I'm just focused on my triceps. I only come up to about my sternum. I don't come here because now I'm using my lats. I'm just pressing. Not done yet. Remember, the most important part of your foundation as an athlete is your core, your midsection, your center of gravity, your obliques, so you can turn and rotate and shoot. Your center abs, so you can clench, maintain posture, balance, that rotation in your lower back, another activity muscle group that you use when you play. Save these workouts for last because they're the best, they're the most important, and they don't get in the way of the upper and lower body movement. For the purpose of weight training, we're gonna incorporate weight into this. So what I like to do is start out with some pushes. You're working on your upper abs, trying to get this to the sky. What I also like to work on doing to get your lower core is by kicking, fluttering your feet. Hands can be out like this, body can be curved up, or you can be down with your hands flat. I'm gonna get to 100 of these. Keep my heart rate down, not in game shape anymore. The next kick flutter, both at the same time. Up, down. So when you come down, that's where you're holding. Now we're gonna do 2 more. We're gonna work on our obliques and the side core. So what I like to do is some crunches this way. Last exercise, core with a weight, and hold it. One hand, opposite hand behind your head, peer down, pull up. When you go down, you want the weight to take you down too, so you feel stretch on the opposite side. And then clench your core to bring you back up. Okay, everyone, look who's back, our channel favorite, Nate, my physical therapist. He's now a father as well.
Woo.
That's right.
And still being run into the ground every weekend by injured PLL players.
That's right. It's been a pleasure. I'm pumped to be here.
Like they say, the best thing about your physio or your surgeon is bedside manner. That is good bedside manner. Okay, so we have your questions. Let me grab them. Nate, these are really sharp questions by you guys. Notification squad, shout out. Let's start with the top. What are some of the best things to do during an injury, and what should I do to still get better while injured? It's a great question.
Very broad. I want to just make it evident that you have to still stay as active as you can possibly within your injury. So if you hurt your lower body, I need you to work on stick handling. I need you to work on catching and passing, because if you can't catch, you can't pass. And then I want you to work on any exercises that you're able to do without irritating your injury. So if you hurt your knee or you hurt your ankle, then I want you to do some cross training. I want you to work on riding the bike to try to keep up your cardio.
We went from a long period in American sports, and frankly any injury from someone in the general population, around rest. Then we added an and recovery. So now you hear R&R, rest and recovery, never just rest.
Yeah. Really, rest by itself is never a great opportunity for you as an athlete, because when you come back, your capacity is always going to be less, and then you're therefore at increased likelihood of injury for something else.
So our official medical provider is Stedman. Our physical therapist is Howard Head. That's the Howard Head Sports Medicine. They're housed in the same group in Vail. It's where I had my surgeries and had some of my recovery. Howard Head is a fantastic partner of ours. Wrist stretching and warm up. I find myself tweaking my wrists while shooting at volume and want to figure out how to prevent it.
This one's always challenging in questions like this because they're so broad. So we want to know, why is the wrist irritated in the first place? Is it because you're not warming up, or is it because you have a limited range of motion, limited strength, or your training and the volume ramp up or intensity ramp up is limited? Second, you want to see, am I limited in a certain range of motion that I'm trying to utilize when I'm getting into a shot, or is it that I'm weak in that position? And so it can happen in many different ways, so you have to try to assess. It's always great to see your athletic trainer or your physical therapist if you're lucky enough to have access to that. And then otherwise you want to try to work on some stretches perhaps, but when it's a warm-up, it's got to be more dynamic, like we talked about last year. You want to try to maybe do some resistance work. So if you had a band around my foot or something, then I can do some resistance, some flexion, some extension work,
strength,
rotation work, and kind of really get those muscles in the wrist and the forearm very warmed up before you start to shoot.
Lacrosse is ambidextrous as well. So for some of you that might have wrist damage in your right wrist but not in your left, you also want to take a look at your form via video. So find Brett Roberts, shoot you on the run or time in room in your backyard. I mean, look, I have wrist damage in my right side. I don't have it in my left side. It's told me over time that my posture and my form on my left is actually more compact, safer than that on my right. And one of the things I learned from top PTs, especially as you get older, you young kids out there don't feel it as much as when you're old heads like me, is that stretching your fingers is also part of your wrist mobility. He mentioned your forearms, your elbow, all of this stuff is connected. So going through stretching even of your individual fingers, and if you feel it tight like I do here, it means you need to do it more regularly. When I would warm up the team in New York and in Boston, I would stand in front of everyone and we would do these, just sort of loosen up your wrist. An example I'd use is the best Olympian of all time, and Michael Phelps. He'd stand up and do this, right? Loosening up his shoulders and his arms, getting ready to hit the pool. By the way, let me give shout outs. The first one was from Skibid I Frog, shout out. Second one was to Drew Meidel, and this one is from Julianne Morales. I know since 2018-ish we've been in an era of fitness and science-based lifting and optimization of every single little thing, but I was wondering your opinion on willpower of the mind through injuries and setbacks. I'm going to school for exercise science and to become a physical therapist like you. So I'm in the world already, but I don't feel like I hear enough educators or professionals that talk about how powerful the mind and how strong the willpower to become better is for individuals and how we see miracles that can't be explained due to someone's drive and passion. I know it's a long question, just wondering your opinion. Much love for you and Paul. # good deal.
A huge component, the mental status of the whole recovery process is sometimes even more important. And I know Paul can talk about this for sure, but especially in the early phases after an injury, after surgery, something like that, you have to try to find ways to improve that mental status, whether it's being with your teammates, being on the sideline, and then trying to find little ways to celebrate victories. And then when you go to come back after an injury, it has to be, your confidence has to be there. If you're testing really well and you can do everything on the field, but your confidence is still limited, then I don't want you playing. I don't want you being out there. Yeah, it's huge.
Julianne, I think it's a great question, and one that I'll challenge you to work on, something I'm sure you're working on if you're like us, which is acceptance and letting go. What Nate and physios and medical practitioners and lieutenants of armies and academies and head coaches of top performing sports programs are all getting better at is wrapping their arms around data. Whether it's sleep data, nutrition, strength and conditioning, recovery, and we can attack it 9 out of 10 angles. But to your point, that last angle, no one can wrap their head around because it's the will, the spirit, the heart of an athlete, the part that can't really be picked up by a metronome or a Whoop band, or a Fitbit. Can't. Okay, last question here. This one comes from Luke Mazurik. He said, what are the best knee stretches before games? Ooh, that's a good one. I find my knees to always tighten during a tournament, and I've had a double knee surgery that he's taken care of. So talk to us.
This one's also very broad because the knees stiffening up or tightening up could mean tons of different things. It could be soft tissue or muscle tension. It could be, are your knees a little swollen? Are they irritated for some reason? So it depends on what is causing the soreness. But if it's more of like during a tournament, like you said, and it's more of that volume thing, then maybe we have to look at trying to just ramp up the training a bit more or try to do some recovery between the tournament days. Some like riding the bike after a game or something to try to just do an active flush. Really trying to warm up well with doing some dynamic movement prep during the game and not necessarily sitting and doing static stretching for long term, like not sitting there for 2 minutes and just trying to stretch your hamstrings and your quads. It's more like doing those quad grabs and moving and doing lunges and doing like single leg skater work and really getting the quad and the hamstrings and calves warmed up well and then keeping warm. So if you have a downtime in the tournament, make sure that you're not just hopping right back in the plane and you're trying to like revamp the warm up and increase it before you play again.
I mean, it struck me as a great question because I never thought about stretching my knees, so it means you're smart, right? And you're already being proactive. And I've noticed that more athletes now than ever before are looking to find different inches of edge. One of the things I learned that I didn't even know exists, and this is my surgically repaired knee, is that we have to constantly be working on our kneecap mobility. And what the hell was that? I was like, what are we talking about, kneecap mobility?
We did that every session. When we started.
And it's not a traditional movement like we were just doing with weights. You're just taking an index finger and a thumb and you're making sure this thing moves diagonally, side to side, vertically. And this was part of recovery with like scar tissue and stuff. But if you take my left knee that's never been operated on, it's part of it is relaxing your legs so you can actually move your kneecap around, right? And I think that should be built into your routine if you're working on your wrists or your fingers, stuff like that. Ankle mobility, I think is a huge one. When people damage their knee or their hip or their Achilles, a lot of the time is they don't have mobility in their ankle, especially as an athlete, because you're sprinting, you're squatting, you can't get the depth because you don't have the angular bend. All that shit matters. Parting words?
If you have an athletic trainer or a physical therapist, go to them, use their expertise, learn from them, and help kind of dial in these situations. Have them look at your full body, determine if you have some knee problems, also look at your ankle, things like that. And so doing all that kind of thing is really important, and try to just be proactive, also reactive after injuries. But the more that you can learn, the better you can be, and the mental game is just as important as the physical game.
All right, brother, you've got 4 teams to get ready for a quarterfinal. All that talk around wrist strength, which leads to forearm strength. Let me demo another way of what Nate was saying we can do here. Boom, works on your forearm and your wrist strength. You can go other end, a little bit more difficult in this direction. And we've got these. See you guys next time.
Burpees.